Welcome back to another Walkaround Wednesday. Hey guys, welcome back to another Walkaround Wednesday, where we just take a quick look at some of our builds where you don't have to follow along through the whole build process. This is our 2022 Ford Maverick, and we're going to go over everything we did to this truck today. I'll show you some of the paint tricks we use, all the air ride setup, and the craziest thing, the sound system. But before we get to that, make sure to head over to the website, check out our shirts. We've got one of the Maverick. Really cool t-shirt. We still have some over there. We've got some of the Charger in Charge, Superbird. We've got some of the traditional Hot Rod Shop shirts. So I believe there's a few left. Head over there, check those out, pick yourself one up. I'll put the link in the description down below. Okay, so with this truck, this is a 2022 Ford Maverick. We picked this truck up brand new from the Ford dealership. When a guy over at Ford told me these were coming, I don't know if it had even been released yet. We knew there was some sort of mini truck that was about to hit the market. As soon as that happened, I said, man, it would be cool, pick one of these trucks up and try to be one of the first ones to do a full mini truck build on a Maverick. Then I didn't even know what it was going to look like, so it was just something that was rolling around in my head and I couldn't wait to see it. When I finally got kind of a line drawing or a rough view of what it was going to be, I thought, yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Because one thing I had in my mind, I wanted to throw it back and do a 90s mini truck build on a modern truck, which is exactly what we did. We did kind of the old school paint scheme. We did the old school billet specialty wheels on it. I really like those. I had a set of those back then. And anyway, we went through it kind of front to back. So the first thing that we did when we got it, we put it on air. We wanted the truck to be as low as it could be, and we didn't know then what the undercarriage was going to be like. So this is set up as basically a unibody. So the difficult part about this was getting it as low as we could and it actually looking low, which if you look at it, it does look low. The front bumper's sitting on the ground and the floor pretty much itself is on the ground. So in order for us to get any lower, we would have had to do some serious work. And I wasn't really interested in doing that because I wanted the truck to be a really cool driver. So I didn't want to get too overly carried away. Even though trying to make it cool, still tried to make it as simple as we possibly could. So what we did for the air ride, first we initially made control arms. We made the control arms because we were trying to run a 2,500 pound bag in the front because our goal was to make the truck hop on air. We ended up doing that and it worked pretty well. The only thing was when we were lifting the truck, it changed the camber so much that I just didn't like the way that looked. It functioned, it worked great, and I think it would have been totally fine. I just didn't want so much camber change in it. And the reason for that was because the control arms had to be so short. So we ended up taking some measurements. Obviously nobody had an air strut or anything like that for this truck. So I ended up talking to Zach over at Universal Air. I sent him all the dimensions and everything for an air strut up front, and he actually built those for us, which I believe they now offer those for these trucks. So if you have a Maverick, I think you can go over to those guys and pick up a set of air struts for these. And that ended up working really well. The only downfall we had with that was it didn't move in the front quite as fast as we wanted it to, but I could live with that because the back moves quick. It will come a few inches off the ground if you start playing with the switches. So what we did for the air system setup, we went with 8 SMC half-inch valves, 2 8-gallon tanks for 16 gallons of air, half-inch lines all the way throughout, and we went to Cool Cars Engineering over there, and Brian set us up with everything that we needed to be able to make this truck do what we wanted to do so we can control every corner individually. And we also went with the old school CCE switch box because that was what I had in the first few trucks that I built, and I wanted to throw it back to that. I love that feeling of having that brown square box sitting in your lap just playing with the switches. So all the air ride turned out really good, especially once we ordered the billet specialty wheels. They got those sent to us. We went with 18s in the front, 20s in the back, Continental tires to wrap those up, and it definitely gives it that old school feel. We could have went 22s or 20 and 22s, but I actually keeping with the theme of back in the 90s, I went with a little bit smaller wheel. We wanted enough to fill it up, but I didn't want it completely tucking the wheel. So believe it or not, that's on purpose. So I really like the way that those look. Definitely gives it that old school feel. Next thing we focused on was the paint. So we roughly sketched out a design we wanted to have, which if you look in here, you can see some of those Z patterns. That was some things we were doing back then. The small scallops that we did, the purple. We've got the one stripe going through the green one that's kind of mimicking somewhat of a Z style stripe. And we just did some patterns within some of this stuff. So the first thing we did before we laid down any graphics, we started with a fade because that was something that was really hot back in the 90s. So going with this factory Ford blue, which I love, we tapered that purple up into blue. So if you look really close, it goes from a purple, the purple starts to fade out a little bit, it goes into more of a sky blue, and then it fades back into the Ford blue. So it's got a really good fade action going on there that goes down the length of the truck. So the next thing we did was we laid down these black stripes that are going through each other. We then outlined those in white. That white we initially planned to airbrush as chrome and have kind of a chrome trim. We were trying to get the truck ready for SEMA, so we didn't get too carried away. So we eliminated the chrome and we just left it white, which I like the way that that looks. We then went into, if you look at the overall scheme, you can see the Ford blues kind of tapering in to this sky blue fade and the purple. So the graphics basically look like an overlay on top of the Ford blue. We then went with the green. So on the green, I really like this one. I wanted it to look almost like a highlighter. So I started out with a Mopar Sublime green, that's the base, and then I took, I believe, just a little bit of white and I lightened up that green. I laid that on top. So what we did when you see this effect is basically that's a marbleized effect. And the way I did that is we laid down that dark green first, then we laid down the green that we tinted with the white, and while that green was still wet, we took saran wrap and we stick it down to that and then immediately pull it back off, and this is the effect you get. Just a really easy, super cool trick you can do with any color. You just have to overlay it with another color, saran wrap it while it's wet, and you get a really neat pattern. We then laid down the orange Z, and that is also, I believe, a Mopar color. I started with the Hemi orange because it has a gold pearl in it. I then added a lot more gold pearl, so it gives it a lot of pop. And then down low, we've got our purple pink scallops. These, if you look tight, they have a big crystal flake in them, and then they're also shadowed. So they're shadowed white up top, and as you go around, we've got a black toward the bottom. And what that does, it makes them look like they're round. That shadow effect really helps it out. And if you look through a lot of this, there's a lot of shadowing. It really gives it depth. But I love the way that looks. It turned out really cool. One thing we did after the fact was the camper top, but it also has custom paint on top of it. So if you look at this, we've got the same style going as we do on the side. We've got a sky blue fade going into the purple toward the rear. We've got our black stripes, but in these up top, I actually did a water drop effect in these, but I wanted the water drop to look different than your traditional water drop because we do it all the time. So I added a little bit of color to the drops. Once I let those dry, it almost looks like a water drop effect, like if you washed your car and you didn't dry it off, it leaves kind of a dirty water drop. That was what I did on top of these, and that's really what it mimicked, and it turned out really cool. On the yellow stripe, you can see it's just got some squiggly lines going through there. So what I used for that was actually a buffing compound. Took it and I just squeezed compound out as we were going down through there. I laid yellow back over the top of it. Once that dried, I wiped that off, and then that gives you that old school kind of squiggle line effect there. In the orange, same orange that's down on the side of the truck, this one I actually used a shaving cream and a paintbrush, so you can see kind of this striped effect that's going in it. I laid down the orange. I then laid down some shaving cream. I coated the top of that with shaving cream, and I ran a paintbrush through it, and that gives that effect. And then in our little scallop, we've got that shadowed again where it looks like it's round. and that turned out really cool. I really like how that looks up top. My plan was to run that all the way down the truck and stop it onto the hood, but I got lazy. That's all that happened. Moving to the inside. So what we did in here, these are factory Ford Maverick seats. We removed the headrest because you got to remove your headrest. Many trucks don't have headrest. We can debate that in the comments, I suppose. But no headrest in my mini trucks. But what we did, we covered these in Apex leather. So we disassembled the factory seat covers. We designed kind of our own, just pleat design, which was big back then, and we covered these in leather. I really wanted to go with tweed, but I love the Apex leather so much that I had to go leather. I like the way that feels, and you know, tweed wears out really quick, so I didn't want to put the tweed in here and actually use this thing and then wear it out, which has not been the case because the truck's got 1,500 miles on it. So we drove it to a few shows, and we just don't get the time to get out to too many shows, so not gotten a lot of miles on it, but since we've got it up here to film it, I'm going for a ride today. Moving to the back, we've got the same thing. We did Apex leather on the back seat as well. We did an orange outline stitch on it that kind of matches the paint scheme, and all that turned out really well. For the sound system, which is my favorite part of this truck, we went with MTX audio. So my very first truck build, I'm gonna say probably around 16, 17 years old, I went with MTX when I did the sound system. So I wanted to throw it back to that. And I really like the guys over at MTX. We do a lot of stuff together now, and I'm super happy to have them on our builds. So for the sound system, we got all that from MTX, came up with what we wanted to do, and then me and Bob cut out the back wall of the Maverick. The back wall, the whole thing is gone. It's a complete walkthrough. And then in the back, Joey over at Outlaw Garage, a good buddy of mine, he built the sub enclosure for us. So that's housing 8 15s. This thing is ground thumping. The crazy thing about it is being a lover of music and a musician, I love music. I love it loud. This gets kind of crazy, but when you turn it up and it gets to that good volume where you really like to listen to it, it's so clean, it's pure. It would be hard to beat the quality of sound that we actually get out of this thing. But we've got 2 extra components in each door. I believe those are MTX 5 1/4, I'm thinking. Out back where we did the cab cut, we've got everything wrapped in Apex leather. We've got the 815s, and then you'll notice we did the old school speckle paint. You used to be able to buy that, and you could just spray it, and it was really cool. You can't buy it anymore. So when Joey was doing that, he got a lot of different paints and just threw paint at it with little paint brushes and got that speckle effect that we used to get back then. And I think that turned out bitchin'. I really love how it looks, love how it sounds. It's so awesome. Then out back, we pop the lid on the camper top. We've got 6 MTX amps. We've got 4 big amps that are pushing the subs. We've got the 2 small amps that are pushing all the components. We've got 3 extra Odyssey Extreme AGM 34M batteries, and those are pushing everything as well. And back here we've got all this wrapped in Apex leather along with the speckle paint, and there's LEDs everywhere, which I'll show you those. So we went over to Oracle Lighting, and when we were getting ready for SEMA, I wanted to change the headlights and the taillights. We ended up not being able to do anything with the taillights, but we did with the headlights. We disassembled the headlights. We sent them out to Oracle Lighting. They outfitted them with LEDs in here, so they're all lit up. And then inside the light, they sent me that part back when they disassembled it. I color matched that to the truck, and I did a water drop effect inside the headlight. And I thought it would be kind of funny because you get condensation in your headlights and it sucks and you try to get rid of it. And I thought it would be clever to put water drops in there. And you wouldn't believe how many people have walked up and said, you got water in your headlights. So it worked. Under the hood, we haven't done a lot to the engine. We did a little bit of tuning. We've got engine panels built for that with trim, and all of that's in there and looks really good. But I actually have that out right now because we were hooking up a battery tender to it to make sure we keep everything charged so we don't have to deal with battery issues in the future when the truck sits for a long period of time. So I've got to stick those back in there, and then that's it. inside the doors, rear doors, along with the paint. We did just a little bit of pinstriping because we wanted to run our graphics in the jams. We didn't have time to do that, so we pinstriped a lot of the inside of the doors just to give that a cool look. And what else do we have? Let's turn on some LEDs. New with the way that we did it back then, we had underglows, and then we had the underglow tubes. And I actually didn't know what they had now. I didn't know if it were still tubes or what, but they're just LED strips. We got those from Oracle Lighting. So they just stick to the bottom of the truck, and we've got them under the hood where they would be under the panels. The whole inside of the truck is lit with LEDs. So all those work really well. There's an app on our phone, so we can go into the app, we can change it to any color we want, we can have it follow the music, we can have a rainbow effect, we can do basically whatever we want with them, and you can see in the headlights, those are all lit up as well. With this truck, you want to talk about a head turner. You get out, the kids love it. This has been their most favorite one out of all the hot rods we have and cars that we have. And I have to say, as far as building them goes, this was probably the most fun for me because there wasn't any rust repair. We didn't really have to do any metal work. We were able to take a brand new nice truck, sand it down, put some paint on it, put air ride on it, do the interior, and not have to deal with any of the dirty, nasty stuff. I have to say it was a great change of pace. We did it over the course of probably about 10 months to a year. We had it at SEMA, I believe in 22. We had 2 cars at SEMA, this being one of them. It was on the cover of Street Trucks magazine, which was really awesome. Brandon shot that for us. And this truck's been a ton of fun. I believe I'm to the point now with all the other builds that we have going and other cars like the Datsun and the Bubble Top that I'm trying to finish. I don't sell a lot, but I believe I'm to the point that I'm ready to let this one go. So I think we're gonna put this one on consignment and see if anybody wants it. The good thing about it is it's a great truck to drive around. It really hasn't been shown. I've only been to 3 shows with it. We did Scraping the Coast, Battle in Bama, and Mini Truck and Nats. Those were a blast, and then we got so swamped that we just haven't been out to any shows. So this would be a great one for somebody else who has the time. Take it, go show it, go have fun with it, drive it across the country, do all that stuff, because I don't know that we're ever gonna get the time to do it. As much as I love it and I don't wanna let it go, and my kids love it, I can't keep all this stuff. So we might let this one go. We're, say, if you're interested or you know anybody, send it around to them. Definitely a lot of fun. Glad I could show this one to you guys. Hopefully we can do more of these in the future. We actually have put some mini trucks on our waiting list to be built. So it's really awesome to see that something we were so into back then that really was, they weren't great investments. You didn't build them and make any money on them. You typically built them, and if you sold it, you lost money, and then you built another one. We did it because we were passionate about mini trucks. We were passionate about doing something different and something cool and just cruising these things around town. And I'm really happy to see that it's coming back around where people are actually wanting to spend real money on them to build really awesome, high-quality mini trucks. So it's pretty exciting that has come back around, and I can't wait to get a couple of those in here so we can start building them. But anyway, like I said, I appreciate you guys watching. Please like and subscribe. There's plenty of videos, I believe, on our channel of this through the build, so you can go check those out as well. Don't forget, head over to the site, pick yourself up a shirt. Got the Savvy Mavy, and hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next time. It's time to go for a ride.